Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the WestCat Board of Directors. Today is Thursday, August 13th, and the time is 6:31 p.m. Let's call this meeting to order. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Roll call. Roll call.
Sorry, we'll do that. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now, may we have a roll call, please?
Terry Carson. Dion Bailey.
Present.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Present.
Tom Hanson.
Here.
Norma Martinez-Rubin.
Here.
Cameron Sasaki.
Here.
Okay. Item B on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so approved. Next item is public communications. Do we have any public communications? No. We do not have any public communications. Moving on to item 1, items for action or discussion. Item 1.1, consideration of Amendment 5 to Agreement of Public Transportation Services between, oh, I'm sorry. I am on the wrong agenda. I apologize. Okay, sorry, we're, consent calendar, please, thank you. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent calendar? Does anyone want to approve? Yes.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar. I'll second.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Now we're on to item 2, items for board action and discussion. Item 2.1, election of WCCTA board officers.
So there's just a really brief memo in your packet, kind of just outlining the previous rotations between the county and the 2 cities. So it's kind of up to the board's discretion on how they'd like to proceed.
Anyone want to speak on this item? Director Bailey?
No one to speak, I'll make a motion.
Thanks. I do want to have a comment there.
Director?
Sure. Yeah, one thing I want to mention here, looking at this sort of schedule that's outlined in 2.1 is that usually we rotate per agency, per seat, county rep, Pinole, Hercules. And one thing that's kind of unique here this evening is that both delegates for Pinole, well, the filing has closed. We will no longer be on the council in Pinole, and will, in effect, will not be sitting on the WestCat board at all after December. So I think in terms of preparation for that, I think it doesn't quite make sense to appoint a Pinole rep, in my opinion. And so we do have a Hercules rep right now as chair, but I think it'd be good to switch to a county rep instead. So just wanted to, if you're taking nominations, chair, want to nominate Director Parsons for the chairship.
Thank you very much, Director Sasai.
Yeah, I had asked to make the motion, but so I was waiting to come back. I'll make a second motion if that's the case.
You're seconding the motion, or you're making a different
No,
motion?
I'll make a separate one.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Okay, so under discussion, I'd like to make an alternate motion?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we should switch the rotation because it'll cause issues for the council members to come thereafter. We've had that discussion here before in the past, several years back. So I'd recommend we keep with the rotation. So I would recommend that our vice chair, which is Norma Martinez-Rubin, be chair, and then the county position go to Tom Hanson for the county.
Any further discussion on that particular item?
Yeah, I would agree that we should stick with the normal rotation that we've always used. And then whoever comes in that is appointed by the city of Pinole can be then take that spot so we can keep the same rotation going. I think Norma could do a fine job in the couple months that we have left, and then we'll figure out what to do after that.
Right, and then this is comments on the alternate motion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think just question to our general manager. So for delegates who, so for the Pinole spot, the chairship, when it does vacate, do we go back out for election in December or January for the chairship, or does the vice chair succeed automatically as the chair, and then we go to election for new vice chair?
I think from my understanding in the past is that we've moved the vice chair, but that it would be up to the board's discretion. I don't think there's anything in our bylaws that would prevent a new election in December or January.
But the plan is to move the vice chair into the chairship.
That's how we have done it historically.
Gotcha. Well, sounds good. Well, I do want to outline then two things. So as we look through each fiscal year outline in 2.1, Vice Chair Martinez Rubin, and then also Director Hansen have both served as chair in the past the past 7 fiscal years here. They've had that opportunity, and I think one thing we want to have is balance in terms of representation. So I think would love to serve as vice chair. Last year when nominations came up, and I think that Director Parsons would do a fine job in terms of leading the way, whether it be for the chairship or the vice chairship. So I think that in terms of representation, making sure folks have the same opportunities and equal opportunity here, would support the move for a chairship on my end, if that's something that the board would be willing to do. But open to discussion if folks have comments there.
So if I may comment, Chair, I am happy to, in the next several months, should I be voted in as chair, to help out with the transition for the next person after that, following that, and to maintain the order that is ordinarily provided or has been had, where we have, I go back, well, what appears in the report, in that order. So I don't see there being a problem with. I just happen to be the vice chair this year, and although I will not continue on the city council, there are several meetings between now and December when we would rotate. I'd be happy to serve as chair for WestCat. It has been one of my privileges to be on WestCat back in 2021. Prior to that, when I was simply a member of the board and was privileged to be voted in as chair, and subsequently left because of actions of our Pinole Council, but was disappointed that I couldn't remain to continue. And so I'd be happy to serve and exit as chair, if I may. Yeah.
Thank you. And through the chair as well, if that's allowed there. I also have had the privilege of serving for the WestCat board for all 4 years of my term on council as well, and happy to help with the transition as well on the way out in December. So would love to make an alternate motion. I know that we have an alternate already. Do we have to take a vote on the alternate first before going, or?
Well, you already made the motion, so you couldn't make an alternate to your own motion. So I think that's where we sit.
Okay.
Through the chair.
I believe so.
I will say also, though, I think that whoever's on the board, many of us are for re-election this year, but whoever's on the board will then make the decision how it should go forward at that time. I don't think it's fair for us to try and predetermine that portion of it.
Director Parsons, you have a?
So then, if we were, I don't know how it would work, if we withdraw the first motion, Cameron Sasai's and my second, or amend his, because if you're looking at this and you're trying to stay within the guidelines of this, it wouldn't go to Tom Hansen. It would either go to San Pablo or me. And there is no San Pablo representation currently on this board, if you're trying to be fair and equitable amongst the peers.
Thank you for that. Director Bailey, do you have a comment?
No.
No.
But yeah, I mean, procedure-wise, would it be possible to amend the initial motion or take a vote on this first and go to the initial?
No, because the first motion is on the floor. When I asked if we could, we went to a second motion, so the second motion gets voted on first.
Okay. You can call the question for.
Okay. So can we hear that second motion again?
Sure, so and I don't, I just want to be clear that that is not the way the rotation has always worked. We had the same chair 2 years in a row since I've been on this board, so I think some of the things we're saying here are just sort of not based on what's actually happened here. But my motion was to repeat that Norma Martinez Rubin becomes the chair, Tom Hansen becomes vice chair, and that was the motion that I made.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I think we had a second, I think.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
No.
That's, my aye was a no.
My aye is in opposition. That makes sense.
Okay, it's okay, okay. Let's, okay, so we have 2 in favor, is that what I heard?
3.
3 in favor and two opposed. I'm abstaining. So we have a majority of, okay, so that motion passes.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Yeah, so now, historically again, now, Director,
Okay, okay,
You're free.
I'm free.
There's a helicopter
you.
waiting for you in back of the building to take you off to the.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I'm scrolling back to the agenda for today. Okay, we are on items for the board action and the discussion, item 2. Thank you. That will help to have the mic on. Items for board action discussion, we are now on 2.2, which is the adoption of the WestCat evolution, the comprehensive operations analysis, and the action requested of the board is to approve and adopt WestCat evolution comprehensive operations and analysis. May we have a report?
we do, so there's a staff report. So you may remember back in June, we released the overall WestCat evolution proposal for public comment. We did receive 3 public comments, which I've included in the staff report, but really briefly, the 3 comments were, one was around the stops that we're proposing to eliminate in Pinole around Marlester when we realign the Route 16 along Appian Way. And so there were comments around that area that we did get back to the commenter to kind of answer those questions. There was a comment around late night service that just based currently on our financial situation and ridership, that does not warrant a kind of much increase in our late night service. And our weekend service, I think the person who commented was just didn't really understand the proposal that we are actually planning to increase service on the weekends. To go back a little bit to the first comment on the stops on Marlester and the reroute of the Route 16. One of the items I'll talk about in the my general manager report is the work that we've been doing with the Pinole Middle School and the changes that are changing on their campus. And I think there's going to be a great benefit when we are able to reroute the 16 in terms of serving that school location. I won't go into the details, but we are working on a connection with AC Transit to bring kids to that school that previously haven't been at that school. So I think there's going to be a great demand for public transit at that location. So, you know, I think the thought behind our move on the Route 16 to Appian Way does make a lot of sense. So tonight what we're looking for is the overall approval of the whole comprehensive operations analysis. What that really means is that, you know, the board have bought into the proposals that our consultant who's here tonight, Ronnie Kraft, kind of worked on. You know, there's been a number of discussions, you know, we've made some changes, we've listened to the board feedback. This was the round of public comments that we wanted to get at the end of what we were proposing. This does not lock the board into a final commitment on those changes. Before we make schedule changes, we will come back to the board. Because these are significant changes, there will be a public hearing required for some of these changes. So there is still, you know, public input process, but I think this now allows us to work on what us as staff believe our schedule should look like going forward in terms of these changes. So as I say, tonight we're looking for the board approval on the implementation of service changes.
Okay, thank you for that report and summary of what is expected of the board. Do any of the directors have any questions? Director Sasai.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation there. Quick question on page on item 2.2, which is potential anticipated rollout in early 2027, subject to the ballot measure in November. Should it not go in the direction that some hope, what is the anticipated rollout in that sense?
Big question. But I think, the reality is, I think we would still be looking to implement some of the routing changes that are in there. The reality is we probably wouldn't be able to put the amount of service that we've talked about under the proposal. But I think, the whole reason for doing this study was we have not looked at where our routes go for 30 years. And I think this, even if we can only implement some of the reductions, if you like, I think they still make sense given transit levels and transit service in the current climate, and where ridership is in our service area, and that's based on all the changes in your communities that have happened over the last 30 plus years.
Got it. And so the board should expect maybe an update after November to
100%, yes. So I think, after November we would be making decisions either way, based on what the ballot measure is. But I think the plan, again, either way, would still to be hopefully rolling out whatever changes we make in the January, February timeframe.
All right. Thanks so much.
Any other questions?
I have a question, and I'm sorry I didn't prep staff with this. We've discussed this question actually before. But can you talk about service at the waterfront under Evolution? I only ask because it has been a hot topic in my town for multiple reasons. So if you can just clarify under this plan, and then we know we have a long-term.
Yes, sure. So currently we have the express service that operates at the waterfront. I'm not sure exactly how many loops, 4 or 5 loops in the morning, 4 or 5 loops in the afternoon. So it only operates between 6 and 8:30 a.m. and 4 and 6 p.m. We have not seen a huge amount of ridership on those routes, and so part of the WestCat evolution is to eliminate that route entirely, but then reroute a local route, currently the Route 15, that would serve the waterfront in the same loop that does, so down John Muir Parkway, Bayfront, and then make the loop and come back out. That will provide service all day long in the waterfront. So yes, there wouldn't be that 30-minute service, but it would be service throughout the entire day, which I think would be more beneficial to the residents, to allow them to access transit throughout the day rather than just through the commute hours.
Okay, so in short, not that we can't understand what you just said, but I just want to make sure I'm repeating it out for my constituents. In short, we would be gaining all-day service, and then is this 5 days a week? Because the current express is just 5 days. Is this 5 days a week?
It's 5 days a week.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other questions? No, I have no other questions. May I hear a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second.
Second, okay. First and second, and all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes to approve and adopt WestCat Evolution Comprehensive Operations Analysis. Thank you. Item 2.3, consideration and approval of Amendment 5 to the Agreement for Public Transportation Services between West Contra Costa Transportation Authority and MV Transportation to extend the agreement term through June 30th, 2026, and establish a new variable and fixed rate. May we get a summary report, please?
Thank you. So first of all, I'll just want to introduce Mark Elias, who is MB's Regional Vice President, who has been a real great ally and person to work with over the last couple of years since he's come on board. I think he's really helped our division kind of progress, and he's given a lot of support to the staff. And also Bob Sanders, who's the current MV GM, is here as well. So they're happy to answer any questions as they come up. But this is the option year, final option year that we have from the contract that we agreed with MV back in 2020. So there was the 5 regular years, and this is the final of the option years. The changes that are in terms of the costs, we are looking at around a 5% increase in our fixed costs, and our fixed costs are basically the management, maintenance, road soups, dispatchers, all of the kind of people on site that do all of that work. And then the again, around 5% increase in our variable rate, and that's our hourly rate. So that's what we pay MV for providing. Basically, when a vehicle leaves the back of our gate until it gets back into our gate, that's what we pay for that that level of service. So it's around a 5% increase year on year. A couple of other things to mention on that. I think one is that the drivers have just agreed a union contract for 5 years. So we've only had a 3-year contract, so having a 5-year contract gives us quite a bit of stability going into the next few years in terms of that, which I think is a really good thing. So we are, and then I guess the other part of that is that over the last few years, I think ourselves and Mark with the last couple of years, but with MV in general, we've worked really hard to maintain what wages and salaries and benefits, not just for the drivers, but for the mechanics, for the road soups, for all of the management staff, just to be in line with where we need to be as a industry standard. So we're able to attract kind of talent to our site. And I think I'm saying that because, if we'd have stuck to what our contract said in our option years that MV bid on back in 2020, I doubt we'd have the likes of Bob or Mark or many of our drivers here now, because we wouldn't be paying them the salaries that we need to have the level of excellent, superior service that we're able to provide. The real reason for that is that because we've done that, when we go out to bid next year, we're going to put an RFP on the street for a new operations and maintenance contract. I think we've put ourselves financially in a place where we're not going to see the bids come in at like 20-25% increase in what we're paying now. So I think we're not going to be. Some other agencies, local agencies, have had that happen in the last couple of years, where they've gone out to bid and suddenly they're left with a 20+% increase in what they're paying for operations and maintenance. So I think we've worked hard to build ourselves year on year to not be in that place, which I think will benefit the agency as we go forward. So I think I'm happy to answer any questions as of now. I don't know if we want to allow Mark to say anything about our kind of partnership and our engagement over the last few years, but I think we're going into this. It will be retroactive through July 1. So and then, as I say, I'm working on a current RFP to go out again in the service starting next July 1.
Thank you for that. Any questions from directors, either to our general manager or to our guest this evening? Director Hansen.
I'll just report that the F&A committee meeting met just before this meeting, and they recommend to approve the amendment.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Bigley?
I just want to say I'm glad that, I'm glad we've done the amendment, but I'm also glad to hear that our operators have received the wages they deserve. When this went through previously, we had a letter on our desk right before the meeting and didn't like that at all. So I'm glad to hear that we've made that progress and that they're getting the compensation that they deserve. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and my comments have to do with that partnership that's made visible to us as infrequently as board members attend events where the drivers are or MV employees are. We see that they are continuously, and that's with an S, not continuously ongoing, enthusiastic about being part of WestCat. I'm not sure that they distinguish the organizational structure as being any different. I think there's still a family type of environment or atmosphere that's fostered by the way business is conducted, and I am very pleased to be part of the board of an organization that functions like that. And it couldn't unless there was mutual understanding about the benefits to each of the partners. So thank you for that. Anyone make a motion regarding the item? Comment, please, yes.
I think it's great that we have representatives from MV here, and if it pleases the board, I'd like to invite them to address the board.
Thank you so much. Please. Thank you for that. If you would please up to the podium so we may hear you and be part of the recording.
Thank you so much, former Madam Chair, new Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Mark Elias, and I'm the Senior Vice President for MV in the Northwest. I've actually been with MV for a very long time and date back to 2021 when I first started as the general manager in San Francisco for MV, and know that this is a very long partnership with WestCat, and for that we are very grateful. We appreciate the continued support and trust of the board and the community, allowing us to continue to serve for all of these years. And I'm very appreciative of this recent extension. As Rob mentioned, I think the last couple of years have been really positive. There was a lot of work to do coming out of the pandemic, not only here in Pinole and WestCat, but in transit in general. And it's been quite the transformation. The 2 years that I have been back and working closely with WestCat, I've seen just a real improvement in morale and just really wonderful teamwork between WestCat staff and MV staff. And as was mentioned, we're just kind of one unit now, and that's really a wonderful place to be. So unless you have any questions for me, I'll pass it on to Bob.
He's a better speaker than me. So I'm Bob Saunders. I'm the general manager. I've been here about a year and a half now. I love it here. This is a great place. The town is amazing. The people are amazing. Our division is really grown. We've come a long ways. I've been with MV a total of about 8 years, back and forth. It's my second tour with them. It's nice to be back. Thank you very much for the extension and for letting us keep going, and hopefully we can keep on going with this and keep moving in the right direction. That's kind of all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. That's where a pun is actually intended, right?
Yep.
Keep moving in the right direction. Thank you both for being here. Any directors, any other questions or comments? And Director Grimsley, thank you for inviting our guests up to the podium.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now I will entertain a motion, if I may hear one from the directors regarding this item. And I'll go back to the agenda.
We're on 2.3, I believe. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the amendment to the agreement between WCCTA and MV Transportation.
Second.
Thank you. First and second, and all in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Motion passes. Motion being that the amendment to the agreement and term through June 30th, 2026, and establish a new variable and fixed rate will appear in the contract between the Transportation Agency and MV Transportation. Thank you so much. Item 2.4, we will now discuss and consider approval of fiscal year 25-26 adjusted operations budget and the proposed fiscal year 26-27 capital and operations budget. I think we have a presentation. Thank you.
We do, thank you. So you may recall we brought a draft version of this to the board back in June. We were not in a place where I was comfortable making it a final, so the board approved a draft budget at that time. So this item is to finalise and approve the actual adjusted budget for FY 2026, which is just finished, and then our current budget for FY 27, both the operations and the capital budget. So I'm not intending to go through the entire budget again like we did last time. I'm going to kind of just give highlights based on what's in the staff report. But if there are any specific items, we can pull it up on the screen. If there's any questions around any particular line items, I'm happy to go over them. So when we brought the draft FY 2026 adjusted budget to the board in June, we were at that point anticipating around a $4,000 surplus, which was not much of a surplus at all. It was a really tight budget. Pleased to say that with all of the work that we've done and kind of all of the final invoices coming in and all of the revenues coming in, we're looking to close the year around $250,000 surplus, which is not where we've been in other years, but I think that's where it's keeping service on the street. I think we're comfortable with that number. The proposed budget for next year is around a 4.4% increase. There's various areas where that increase applies. There's a lot of, we just talked about that the operations contract purchase transportation, which is the operation contract, has gone up. You know, we're seeing increases obviously in diesel and fuel. No surprise to anyone there. You know, I think just the general cost of doing business has gone up. We are coming up once again against the aging fleet. So repairs on vehicles happen and are needed, and we need to keep those vehicles out on the street. I think we're especially coming up that with some of our older over-the-road Lynx vehicles. You know, so the anticipated cost for keeping vehicles on the streets is anticipated to increase, but our proposal is on our $16.9 million budget at again around a 4.4% increase on last year. This year we've got a very lean, very small capital budget. We're not planning on a lot of capital projects this year. Some of that is related to the changes in our status of our Lono hydrogen grants. So all of that kind of projects have been pushed out and changed and rescoped and going to look very different, but we're not really planning on any of that happening this year. The only real capital item is a purchase and replacement of some of the routers on board our vehicles that currently relay our real-time information from the vehicles back to the server, back to the public. With a company that we've relied on for a number of years, I mean, just the performance is not where we want it to be right now. We are seeing some issues with our real-time information. So our vendor came out and installed a new type of router, which we've been testing for the last few months. We've had no performance issues. We've been able to get real-time information when it's on the Bay Bridge, when it's in the Salesforce Center, stuff that we've been struggling with certainly for the last 6-8 months with the old routers. So our intent would be to a little bit more testing just to be 100% sure, and then replace those routers on the vehicles and hopefully see an improvement in the real-time information that's getting out there on the street. Just to go through the staff report, just some of the costs and the revenues that we're looking at. Some of the revenues, you know, we're not anticipating a huge fare increase anytime soon, so our fares are looking fairly stable. We are just started our second year, or I guess first 18 months of our new contract with a advertising firm. I think we touched on this briefly 2 months ago. You know, we are seeing a steady stream of local adverts on our vehicles, which I think is a really good thing, as well as some national campaigns. So I think our new advertisers are selling the spaces on our vehicles. You know, we're coming in, maintaining how the adverts look, so we're pleased with that. Some of our other revenues, you know, we anticipate that our STA, which is the State Transit Assistance Funds that we get, is going to be it's dropping year on year. We were originally anticipating around a 10% drop year on year, but we actually got a letter this week that we perhaps getting a little bit more of that money, so the drop may be actually more level on what we've received in previous years, which is a good thing. Measure J is projected to be up slightly year on year. It's fairly flat, but around, I think the projections were a 2.5% increase. Our Transit Development Act funds are fairly stable across the board, but they have again dropped slightly. The BART feeder bus funds, unfortunately, has dropped to zero. You know, BART are no longer going to provide those funds. This budget does show a $2.7 million prior year Regional Measure 3 loan that MTC have approved for us, County Connection, Tri-Delta, Labta. We're all seeing different amounts, but equal to our feeder bus funds from last year. So we're able to keep that at least for the next year. Our RM2 funds that we've received historically since, I don't know, 15, 20 years at this point, remains level where we received it. The RM3 operations funds, which is used for our links and our express services. That's the number that you may recall has fluctuated a lot over the last 4 years. It's been millions of dollars, a couple $100,000, $2.5 million. We now have a fairly stable amount going forward in our budget that we can anticipate around $1.6 million annually, which will help us plan and program our budget kind of going forward. Couple of the cost things that are worth mentioning. I think, you know, the purchase transportation we've talked about. That also includes the costs associated with the one-seat ride program that we're involved in with County Connection, Tri-Delta, and LAVDA. So County Connection provide that service, and for any trips and time that is spent within our service area, they bill us for. You know, it's a complicated formula across 4 different agencies, but we're starting to see, you know, slight increases in those costs. So that is also built into our purchase transportation line item. Talked about fuel. I think the only other really want to mention is our clipper costs. You know, I think I said at the F&A committee when we talked earlier, it's almost like pulling a number out the air and putting it there, because we really don't know what our clipper costs are going to be. There's been a lot of just, you know, the Clipper 1 system should have sunsetted and been turned off on December 10th of last year. It wasn't. They're still very slow in implementing Clipper 2 across. You know, if you've got a Clipper 2 card and it works, you're doing good and you have no issues. But of the 15 or so million Clipper cards that have been issued, only around $3 million have been turned onto Clipper 2. So there's a joint cost. So we're paying, as an agency, we're paying for Clipper 1 and Clipper 2 at the same time. So those costs are kind of still up there as kind of a, not a concern, but, you know, they are part of our budget that it's really hard to plan around. I mentioned the cost of maintenance. So in order to balance this budget, and I'll talk a little bit about reserves in a moment, we are requesting or anticipating around it was going to be a $1.2 million use of our prior year reserves. And my thinking, my rationale around this is that with the regional measure coming up in November, I want to keep service on the street. So I want to be able to plan that if nothing else happens, if we know where we are, we could maintain our service at the current levels for this year. The reality is, whatever happens in November, we're going to be making service changes one way or the other in January, February. But I think this budget would give us the stability to make sure we make those right changes, and we do them in January, February, not now when I think it's really important that we've got as much service on the streets as we can and that we're maintaining our service. So I think because I mentioned earlier that we're anticipating to getting a little bit more SDA funds, our budget is requesting $1.2 million in reserves. The reality is it may be a little bit less than that based on when our different revenues come in. So the 2 slides that I will share are the last 2 slides, and actually let me share them so you can see them. So it's the last 2 slides. So one is the financial forecast. It should come up. And there's a highlighted. I don't know if I can do full screen on this. There you go. So this is basically just a summary of where we are in the entire budget, and, you know, all of the different items that we've talked about. But I think the important one is the highlighted line, which is the prior year, which basically the use of our reserves. So in the proposed budget, we're anticipating around, you know, $1.3 million, and then this just shows that over the next 2 years, FY28, FY29, given our current financial forecast, given where we think we are in terms of costs and revenues, that we would deplete our entire reserves by 2029. I know the board would not want to go down that route, but this is more just where we would be. So I think, again, whatever happens in November, I think there's some real serious decisions to be made in terms of service levels and where we need to be at that point. And then just as another highlight of that, because the question came up about what our current policy is on reserves. Our current policy is to maintain a $2 million reserve balance. And some of you may recall a couple of years ago, we started a discussion around that, and, you know, we never really kind of resolved that. But I think, again, it's something that we need to readdress, look at again, and determine where our reserves should be in the future. I think there's 2 lines to look at on this screen. Towards the bottom, there's number of months of operating expenses and reserves. So I think currently with our reserves at the start of the year of $6 million, we have around 7 or 6.5 months of operations in reserves. So I think as we get into the discussion on reserves in future months, I think that's kind of where I would probably be comfortable as looking as trying to be. I think that may potentially be a challenge to be there, but I think that's where I think I would be recommending that the board kind of look at. But that's a future discussion. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to go over any specific line items, but we did go into more details at the F&A committee, and I'll allow them to kind of highlight or comment on any of that.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, we did have a discussion, a presentation similar to this, and a little bit more detailed in responding to questions from members of the Finance Administration Committee. Those included Director Grimsley, Director Hansen, and myself. We asked about, or at least one often question that comes up and concerns that come up is, do we have sufficient amounts should there be any occurrences of events that are not planned? There's always a lot of uncertainty with regard to funding available for transportation from the various sources. We heard earlier that there has been some funds, some amount of funds that have been committed in the past years and are maybe available, but there's still much more that needs to be certain in order to have a budget that is going to reflect with greater accuracy between projection and actuals that to be spent by the end of this fiscal year. So in the interim, as you heard General Manager mentioned, we are looking forward to getting news about results in November, having further discussions about, and ongoing discussions as we do at every board meeting. All of us got a copy of the packet, so if there are any questions related to any specific line items, we will entertain those and have Rob answer them. We had some questions already in the subcommittee. My summary of the questions that I asked had to do with should there be any events that occur, any unexpected costs associated with either maintenance and or any breaches in security with as many digital systems that we have in place, would those funds be available? And the answer is yes. There is always a bit of a reserve for that, not technically called a reserve, but a fund for that, which laid my concern to rest for a bit. And knowing that there will be further news about the actual available level of funding from the different sources ordinarily available to transportation agencies to be determined. So any questions? Director Bailey.
Yes, this is to our general manager. And the RM3, how did they get smoothed to a constant number? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
So I think you said RM3 was going to go to 1.6 million, so it's been fluctuating, but it's been in the hundreds of thousands.
Yep. So over the last 4 or 5 years, they've basically been trying to just fill holes in agencies' budgets, and so there hasn't been a standard formula. There's been a sort of a not quite a feeding frenzy, but pretty much. So there was no actual formula in place. So they've now actually stabilized the formula based on it's so it will vary a little bit because it's between all of those agencies, but it's basically the amount of service you've got on the street. So if we reduce a lot of service, we may see some of that go down. So it will vary in that sense, but at least we now know it's going to be roughly that amount. It's not going to jump around.
Okay, thank you.
Director Henson.
Yeah, the F&A committee did meet and discuss this, and it recommends the approval of the 25-26 adjusted budget and the proposed 26-27 budget.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
just had a
Director Sasai.
still had a comment on the item. If that's okay with you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, just curious. When was the last time the reserve policy has been amended? Has it always been 2 million? Has that changed over time? How's that?
It was. I mean, I'd have to look back, but it was probably 10, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago, and it hadn't been looked at. Although I think it was maybe 2 years or 3 years ago, we started to look at it, and we had one. I know we had one presentation, but we didn't take it any further. So there was some initial discussion on it then.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation out here, and just reiterating to me, it doesn't make any sense to have a flat number as our reserve policy. It makes sense to have a percentage because it aligns and grows proportionally to our budget. So I know that discussion is a larger discussion at some point in time, but I'd love to have that come back to the board at some point.
Thank you. I think there are plans to have that happen. Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right. May I hear a motion regarding the action that's been requested, and that is formal approval of the adjusted fiscal year 25-26 and proposed fiscal year 26-27 operations and capital budget?
So moved.
May I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 3.0, committee reports. 3.1, general manager's report for information.
Thank you. So just a couple of items tonight. I think first one is, you may have seen on our social media or anything, that one of our Lynx vehicles, Lynx MCI 201, it reached 1 million miles in service a couple of weeks ago, which I think is a pretty impressive achievement of our maintenance staff to kind of get that vehicle. It's a 2008 MCI, so we've kept that vehicle in service 18 years. It's still going strong. It's now over a million, well over 1 million miles. There's drivers that love that bus, that want to drive it, and even though it's old, we don't get complaints from passengers about it, so it's still operational. It's still great. But I think it's just remarkable that we've managed to keep it on. Vehicles don't last that long anymore, I think is the answer. So to get that, we don't have any other vehicles remotely close to that. So it's really impressive to have kept that in service. Quick report out on the free rides that we offered on the weekend in May, June, and July, and the free youth rides that we offered throughout the summer in June and July. We actually saw around a 50% increase this year in youth rides than we did last year. I think there was definitely more marketing went on. There was more work with the other agencies, and CCTA actually also helped with some of the marketing around that campaign. But I think it's really good that, a 50% increase. We saw almost 13,500 rides, youth rides throughout that time. And then I think what really is more remarkable, as remarkable at least, is we saw around a 40% increase in weekend rides throughout that period. And I think that sort of spells, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the free rides on the weekend is that, we are planning on increasing service on the weekend. And I think this sort of points to the fact that people do want transit on the weekend, and, it's an important thing to have out there. So if we can encourage people to use transit, again, a 40% increase based on where we were last year, I think is really good. And then the last thing, we are coming up to the first day of school. Most of the schools are back in on Tuesday. While normally I don't think we make any kind of real fuss, we have our process, our routine in place. We know what routes we have in place for the Pinole High School, for Hercules High Middle School, and out in Crockett and for John Sweat. I think what's unique this year is the changes that are happening at Pinole Middle School. So the campus at the Betty Reed Soscawen campus up on Javita behind Target, all of those middle school children are moving to Pinole Middle High School campus. And so we've been working a lot with the school district and with AC Transit on how to get those kids that have been going to the site up behind Target, Betty Reed Soscawen, for a number of years. So AC Transit have routes that drop kids off there. That's the process. But now a number of those kids now need to get to Pinole Middle High School, Pinole Middle School. So there was a lot of concern about them walking, how they were going to do that. So we work with AC Transit, and we are going to have a vehicle long term as part of our regular Route 16 that will connect with AC Transit at the Javita turnaround in the mornings and bring kids to Pinole Middle. And in the afternoon, we'll pick up the kids from Pinole Middle after bell time and bring them to the connection with AC Transit. So we sort of realise this is a big change for a number of kids and parents. So our staff are committed to being out there on Tuesday and for the first few weeks to kind of smooth that out and make sure those connections work and people understand that they don't need to walk across Appian Way. So we've worked hard on that. We've also worked with WestCat because one of the other concerns was that the way that the school bus pass program works is kids are only eligible for either a WestCat or an AC Transit pass. So we're now asking them to make a connection between two routes. So WestCat have worked and they passed a resolution to use some additional funds. So children that need it can have both passes. So they can have a WestCat and an AC Transit pass. So that should also help kind of hopefully mitigate some of the concerns of the parents. But it's going to be, we're not quite sure what to expect on Tuesday. And certainly the first few weeks with the first day and with parents getting used to this change, because I think it's a big change to change the campuses that the school district have. And then related to that, another thing you probably see on social media, but something that Mika, our staff, has worked really, really hard on. We've produced a kind of a zine, and the first, hopefully it's going to be a series, but the first one is kind of like your first ride to high school. That sort of lays out the whole experience of not really understanding transit and how to figure it out, how to use transit app to do that, how to get on the bus, to talk to the driver, all of the things that kids probably really don't know, and parents probably want to understand that their kids know when they're getting on the board the bus. So I know we've got a few of these if people want to take them, but I think it's available online. There's a digital version, but I think just want to kudos to Mika for kind of putting this together, and it's done a lot of work working with a artist to kind of get this out. And I think every time we show this to people, we've shown it to a couple of the consultants we're working for Ronnie's left, the comprehensive operation analysis. They've never seen anything like that. I mean, it's fairly unique to have done it in this format and got it out there. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm really proud of Mika and kind of the work that we've done to get this out. And so I just want to kind of highlight that. So that's all I've got.
Thank you for that. And thank you for that creativity. We'll have to take a look at that. All right. Questions? Comments? Director Sasai?
Yes, and wonderful. Can I see the? Yeah, that looks amazing. Great work on this. Folks can see that. And I think I made a comment when we were talking about the WestCat evolution that Bart has done a great job in terms of creating materials that attract more ridership, especially young folks who may not feel comfortable on public transit, but this is great. And so hopefully inspires the next generation to be out in public transit, use it, and ride WestCat. Out of curiosity, who's the designer for this? Because that looks great. Who do we use for that?
Her name is Sandra Mullet.
Sandra Mullet.
She's out of Southern California.
Gotcha. Looks great. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Director Sasai reminded me that I asked at some point, do teens consider it cool to ride public transportation? So
What did I say?
I remember. Yeah, I remember that. So hopefully this will get us in that direction of having a few more take a look at that piece because it speaks to them somehow, and then maybe entice them to actually ride. Okay, any comments, questions further? Any further ones regarding this item, regarding the general manager's report?
No, just congratulations on the geriatric bus. And
the other side of the spectrum,
yeah. Get to that.
That's thank you. That's funny. All right. So next item is the WCTAC representative report, please.
Yeah, at our last meeting on July 24th, we had a couple items come up. One is the Alzampa maintenance on the bridge. They're talking about westbound lanes are going to be at the end of the month be shut down for repaving. It's kind of going to be similar to what happened with the 80 repaving before the bridge. So a bunch of detours going on all around the bridge for that weekend. It'll get it done a lot faster that way because it's being done all at once rather than piecemealing it at night. The AC Transit came in and talked about their budget and service update, so that was informational. And then the countywide call for projects for the FY27 annual TFCA 40% fund, so those are going out for requests for proposals. And then There was also a presentation about the commuter incentive program and the guaranteed ride home program. Both of them are being underutilized, and they're trying to figure out how to get people to use them more often. So, and that was it for the meeting on the 24th.
Thank you. You said the Zampa Bridge, also AKA the Carquinez Bridge, yes? Okay, thank you. So plan your trips. And one way to know of such things is actually Caltrans has has advisories if the public doesn't receive them directly, to go online and find out about the changes on the roads that affect traffic, regular vehicle traffic, as well as public transportation. So thank you for that. Anything else? No? Okay, all right. So we always look forward to any correspondence? No correspondence yet. Maybe around the holidays. We'll find out. Okay, item 5.0, board communication or items for future board meetings.
I have a future board meeting.
Director
request.
Bailey?
Yeah, I'd like to know if the general manager could do a report. We've discussed this, but we haven't discussed it formally where we can go to residents to find it. So the ask is that we have a conversation about transit service at the Hercules waterfront. And specifically, I know the details of it, but if it would include how we access the private property. Again, not asking necessarily for new information, but that we have a source we can pull and give to folks, otherwise it becomes rumors. And then, what type of bus we use and why. I think all this stuff has been discussed, but it's been discussed in pieces. I'd love to have it in one report that we can share with residents as those questions come up.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess do we have to vote? I don't know if we have to, or can we just?
Does the board consider that to be something with great utility and to improve and help service and encourage people to ride our buses? I'm seeing nods and questionable eyes over there.
I don't think it needs to be, what did you say, agendized or something, or?
Well, we'd like to capture it in some sort of a report. So these things have all been discussed. We know what types of buses can be used as a board. The problem is that the public and 26,000 folks in Hercules don't necessarily know that. And there's no way to grab it and give data that has WestCat on it. How we access to make the loop turn around there, we know that we have an agreement. It's in writing, it's renewed every year. The public has no way of knowing that. So it would capture all that into a report that we could then use to give out in the future. So we'd have an agenda, discuss it, and then it'd be there captured, frozen in time as our agendas, and we can pass it out to residents as those questions arise. Right now, it's all word of mouth. And if they ask one board member who doesn't remember detail, we get conflicting information as to what is going on down there.
So would that be something that would be like in the route map that we have or that we've given out in the past, or that's something that we could just hand them, this is your route 16 or route 15 or route whatever it is, and it has the information on there?
No,
Or
this is more of a process question. So it's I think from a resident's perspective, and someone stop me if we start talking too much because we're supposed to have discussion on it here. But from a resident's perspective, if I want to know what happens if the bus turnaround becomes a park, right? We know the answer and we try and explain it to residents, but they don't know that. Why don't we use a cutaway bus and go down Sycamore Avenue, for example, might be a question, is part of this whole discussion. We've had these in pieces over the last 8 years. I don't think it's captured in one document, like so we could just pull to a particular agenda and say, here's the discussion that was had, and these are the answers right there in writing. It makes it easier than asking individual directors.
So if I may, we can have staff determine how the best way to present that. Sounds to me like perhaps with the questions that have already been asked, or recurring questions could be an FAQ and have it available to us. So staff can determine the best format for that.
So my
given what
ask
they
was
know.
that it be, okay, the staff shaking their head, yes, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it seems the majority of the directors agree that'd be something useful. Thank you for that. Anything else? Nope.
I just want to thank Mika and the rest of her team that were there for National Night Out in Hercules. It was amazing. You had at least 4 or 5 people there. You had a bus there. They were handing out all kinds of fun stuff, T-shirts, the buses with the little lights, keychains. It was several thousand people is what I would say. And so I appreciate that you guys were there. That was pretty cool. And then, of course, I was there with representing Rotary, Hercules.
Well, thank you, Director Parsons.
I second that. Almost as busy as my booth, but I do second that, though.
And
Oh, sorry.
no, it's okay. You're good. You good?
Yeah.
And then on I don't know that it needs to be communicated, but in Rodeo on September 26th, our Saturday service could have a potential disruption. It may be an extremely busy day in Rodeo. There's going to be a Rodeo Music and Art Festival, and the headliner is to be released in the future, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty incredible. So if you're not doing anything on September 26th, Rodeo should be one of the highlights of the Bay Area on that day, actually.
And you can get to it via WestCat?
Huh?
And you can get to it via WestCat?
That's kind of my fear, is that WestCat may need to go around a back street on Vaqueros instead of Parker, because it might actually be like so packed that it might actually be a problem to actually get through town. So I don't know what the logistics are of having an alternate route, but it's something that you guys might want to put on your radar.
Yes.
We'll work on that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
we deal with that in Panola. We deal with that around. So,
Yeah,
but no, appreciate the date.
it should be a lot of fun. Be there.
Thank you. And ride WestCat.
And you ride WestCat.
Get around. Yeah, thank
It
you.
would be a great opportunity for you to be able to not have to drive and figure out where parking is if you actually took the bus. So I highly recommend that you actually figure out how to take the bus.
There you go. That's the kind of encouragement people would like. All right. Communication by Director. I was going to call you Doctor. Director Sasai.
One day. Want to note that when I first got on the WestCat board, this was in 2023, one of the first things I proposed, and we thankfully passed with the board's support, was mandating that we have California versus hate crime resources and materials stocked in every single one of our fleets. I just want to say to General Manager and the board, hope that continues and sort of outlives my tenure here in this board. I want to share that 3 weeks ago, my dad was actually the subject of a hate incident in San Francisco, walking on Battery Street. So it didn't happen on the bus, but it was on the way back to the bus, back to Hercules Transit Center. So he's a daily WestCat rider. If it happened to him, I'm sure it happens to quite a few folks. So I see BART taking the lead, I see VTA taking the lead on issues like this. We have to keep taking the lead because federal administration has been emboldening many folks to engage in that type of behavior. So just want to put a note there, hopefully that it's still stocked in our fleet, our buses. Thanks.
It's disheartening to hear about those experiences. Sorry that has happened. Okay, thank you for all your communications. Anyone else? Yes, Director Grimsley.
So first to Director Sasai, I'm very, very sorry that happened to your dad. But on the heels of your overarching comments, I've learned recently it's important to say things while you have the time to say it. And I just want to say tonight I'm feeling really good about being affiliated with the WestCat organization. Everything that we talked about here definitely spoke to the integrity of the organization, and I think that's really important. I think in these times we don't see a lot of integrity in our daily lives, and I think this has been evidenced through the value that WestCat shows for our community and all of its writers, including our youngest writers and our oldest writers. And also in terms of employees, and having a 5-year contract, having a competitive salary. These are things that demonstrate value and on many facets. So to our general manager, to the WestCat team, to everyone, keep doing what you do, because it definitely shows not only your integrity, but your value for everyone in the community, for one another as employees, as staff, for the folks who live in our cities represented here, or communities represented here, and all of the future writers coming. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Grimsley. Echo that. Anyone else? Right. So we've reached item 6.0, adjournment. I hereby adjourn the meeting to the next regularly scheduled meeting of Thursday, September 10th, 2026. Have a good evening, everyone.